A ver, quiero saber si se me escucha bien o qué, si estoy en directo o no. Vale, estoy en directo y se me escucha bien. Se me escucha bien, perfecto. Voy a hacer esto, voy a hacer esto. Tin. Así. Y bueno, vamos a empezar en español, por favor. Elige un idioma para los subtítulos y el texto en pantalla. Sí, español. Confirmar. ¿Jugaste alguna vez esto? No. No lo he jugado en mi vida. Ajusta la barra deslizando hasta sí. Hasta la computadora sea apenas visible. Algo así, ¿no? Confirmar. Perfecto. Introduce la hora actual. La hora actual. La hora actual son las 6.
Ey, ya estoy aquí cara sonriendo con gafas de sol.
Hombre, Neko. Son las 6:20. Pero no las 6 AM.
XD.
Eso, PM. Bueno, confirmar. Vale. Puedes hacer la configuración de accesibilidad desde el menú principal. Va.
No me acordaba de la señora esta que lee el chat.
Vale, pues vamos a iniciar partida. Dentro de... O sea, Stanley Paramel Ultimate
Ahora vengo,
Edition.
no tardona.
Vale, perfecto, Neko. Stanley Paramel, de luz, o sea, ultra, se me lengua la traba, coño. Bueno, que eso, el título del juego y luego en el ordenador el mismo título del juego. Ah, coño. O sea, qué cojones, tío. Antes de comenzar el juego, o sea, estoy viendo el juego dentro del juego, y dentro del juego está más bueno, no sé qué opinar, la verdad. ¿Qué cojones? Increíble. Iniciar partida.
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
Vale.
Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly.
En el trabajo 427.
Stanley was happy.
Stanley es feliz, vale.
And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Vale, y ya está. Ok. Va un poco... ¿no? Bueno, vamos a ver.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Ah, vale, puedo agacharme así. Ok. Team en Fortnite. Ay, bueno, vamos a ver. ¿Y hacia dónde tengo que ir? ¿O qué tengo que pillar? ¿O qué tengo que hacer? Esa habitación no sé ni dónde coño está. Pero voy a ir por aquí. No, lo más lógico sería ir recto, ¿verdad? Ok, pues vamos. No sé dónde estoy.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Va hacia la puerta de la izquierda. Ni nada, ¿no? ¿Y qué pasa si voy por la derecha? Venga, vamos a hacerle caso. Mierda, y no se puede. Vale. A la izquierda, vale. Si me toca la puerta de la izquierda. ¿Y ahora?
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Vale, no entiendo nada, o sea, para que sepáis, el inglés a mí se me... A mí se me da mal el inglés. Y bueno, ¿esto qué coño es? Subir, don't... Not alert, we know... No sé qué... Va. Perfecto. Read... O sea, rip... Fronts. ¿Vale? Oye, ¿qué coño? No puedes saltar y me dan un trofeo. Consigue tu primer trofeo. Un trofeo es no poder saltar, vale. Ay, con este también puedo agacharme.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Pero para arriba, para abajo, bueno, da igual. Supongo que es para arriba, pero bueno. Pero quiero ver qué hay abajo.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all? None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. and at last he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. "I'm dreaming!" he yelled. "This is all a dream." Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd, and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream.
Intento explicar una cosa. Por favor, cállate de una vez.
He doesn't have to take responsibility for himself. Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment and my wife and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
Vale. Vale, por fin se ha callado este señor.
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
Todo se puso negro. Vale.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day, the very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
No me has dejado explicar durante medio stream ya. Estoy en el inicio. Quería explicar de que igual hay que tocar alguno de esos relojes, pero es que no me dejaba porque estaba ahí hablando el puto narrador de mierda que no se callaba de una. Hay que estar tranquilos, hay que estar tranquilos. Hay que estar tranquilos. Vale. En fin, vamos a avanzar.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Ahí no hay nada. Está todo igual que en el inicio. Yo no puedo abrir puertas ni nada.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley's, but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Valle.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't 5 years ago.
Stanley es muy malo para seguir indicaciones.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for her. This is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself. To put your work aside, to let her back into your life. She's been waiting.
Vale, y me voy por aquí. Todo está negro.
That's her, Stanley. You need to be the one to do this, to reach out to her. If you can truly place your faith in another, then pick up the phone.
No puedo. No puedo. No puedo. No puedo coger el...
As Stanley picked up the phone, a white light engulfed him, filling him not just with radiance, but with hope. Hope for a life reunited one... Wait. Oh, goodness. Stanley, did you just unplug the phone? No, that wasn't supposed to be a choice. How did you do that? You actually chose incorrectly? I didn't even know that was possible. Let me double-check. No, it's definitely here, clear as day. Stanley picks up the phone. He's taken to his apartment where he finds his wife, and the two pledge themselves to one another. Music comes in, fade to white, roll credits. Not picking up the phone is actually somehow an incorrect course of action. How is that even possible? None of these decisions were supposed to mean anything. I don't understand. How on earth are you making meaningful choices? What did you... Wait a second. Did I just see... No, that's not possible. I can't believe it. How had I not noticed it sooner? You're not Stanley. You're a real person. I can't believe I was so mistaken. This is why you've been able to make correct and incorrect choices. And to think I've been letting you run around in this game for so long. If you'd made any more wrong choices, you might have negated it entirely. It's as though you completely ignored even the most basic safety protocol for real-world decision-making. Or did you not grasp the severity of the situation? Well, I won't have that kind of risk on my watch. I'm going to stop the game for a moment so we can educate you properly on safe decision-making in the real world. Please observe this helpful instructional video.
Choice. It's the best part of being a real person, but if used incorrectly can also be the most dangerous. For example, in this scenario, a hypothetical real person named Rupert has a choice. He could invent a machine that eliminates food shortages across the world to make life better for all people. Or he could spend years of hard work forgetting how to read. Which choice would you make? Remember that unlike here, the real world makes sense, and at no time should you make a choice that does not conform to rational logic. If you find yourself speaking with a person who does not make sense, in all likelihood, that person is not real. Allow the person to finish their thought, then provide an excuse why you cannot continue talking. Turn to a partner and practice saying, "My goodness, is it 4:30? I'm supposed to be having a back, sack, and crack." Excellent. Making choices on a regular basis is the best part to a healthy decision-making process. Most medical professionals recommend making at least 8 choices per day. Do you make more than 8? Less? And finally, if you begin to wonder if your choices are actually meaningful and whether you'll ever make a significant contribution to the world, just remember that in the vast infiniteness of space, your thoughts and problems are materially insignificant, and the feeling should subside. At this time, your instructor will guide you in an exercise to test and reinforce the material covered in this video.
Vale.
Welcome back. You may have noticed that this room has begun to deteriorate as a result of narrative contradiction. But not to worry. Now that you're properly informed on good decision-making, we're going to revisit a choice you made just a few minutes ago and see what the correct thing to do would have been. This way, please.
Vale, y ahora tengo que volver.
Now that we know your choices are meaningful, we can't have you jumping off the platform and dying. Imagine the main character dying senselessly halfway through the story. That story would make no sense at all. We just need to get you home as soon as possible before the narrative contradiction gets any worse. Unfortunately, it seems this place is not well equipped to deal with reality.
Os digo una cosa, no estoy entendiendo una mierda. No estoy entendiendo nada.
Almost there. You'll take the door on the left, back to the correct ending, the story will have resolution once again, and you'll be home free in the real world. Now remember, all you need to do is behave exactly as Stanley would. That means choosing responsibly and always putting the story first. I'm quite sure you'll be up to the task. Just follow my lead and you'll be fine. All right. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
¿Qué pasa si voy otra vez para allá? ¿Qué pasa si voy otra vez para allá?
No! Why did you do that? Quickly, hurry back in the other direction. Perhaps we're not too late.
Antes de que sea demasiado vale, pues te voy a hacer caso.
Oh, it's ruined. I can't believe, after everything we talked about, that my story, you've destroyed my work. Why? For what? What did you get out of that? What did you think was so special about seeing the game undone, left here like so much garbage? It's worthless now. And what am I supposed to do? Even if there were a way to continue, would it be worth it? To know that my story is now incorrect? How can I go back to that? I can't erase that knowledge. I'll have to live with it forever, reliving its impossibility forever. I couldn't live that way. Is it better to shut the game down entirely? To willingly destroy all of my work? I don't know. What's the answer? What do I do? What do I do? What do I... No, I have to. I have to shut the game down. I have to. I have to.
Ha borrado el juego. Está borrando el juego.
Oh, I'm here. I'm still here. Here in this pile of rubbish. With you. You. Who thought you were so clever. Now look where we are. My entire game is destroyed. It was the only thing in the world that was mine, and you've run it into the ground. What, did you think that would be funny? You just had to see? Didn't I impress upon you how important it was to be like Stanley? He actually knows how to do what I tell him to. He understands that if I say to do something, there's a damn good reason for it. That thought hadn't even occurred to you, had it? That there's a world outside of you? You're a child. Oh, my story. If you'd just gone through the door on the left, you would have seen it. There was a whole underground facility. You would have destroyed it and been victorious. It would have been so perfect. I worked so hard on it. I tried so hard to make... behave exactly as Stanley would. That means choosing responsibly and always putting the story first. I'm quite sure you'll be up to the task. Just follow my lead and you'll be fine. All right. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Vale, voy para allá.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
La oficina del jefe. Esta es la oficina del jefe, vale. Hostia puta.
Stepping inside his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, until he saw the door with a voice receiver next to it. Surely behind this door lay all the answers to his questions. And beyond all probability, he knew the passcode. He had seen it on his boss's computer just last week. Nightshark 115. Was this the code to open the door? Would it still work? There was only one way to find out. Stanley had been trained never to speak up, but now he would draw from within himself the courage to face the unknown. He drew a sharp breath and then spoke the code. Stanley spoke the code. Nightshark 115. He spoke it into the receiver, right there on the wall.
¿Qué tiburón? ¿Qué dice?
I'm sorry, is there a problem? You didn't mishear me, did you? Please speak the code into the receiver. Otherwise we can't get on with the story. This is a crucial step. Okay, fine, you're not going to do it, but you know what? It's pretty humiliating to bring you this far, only for you to suddenly decide you have better things to do. I asked you for this one single thing, for your respect, The kind of respect Stanley shows for his choices. He knows what it means to take a story seriously. If you didn't want to see what I had to show you, then why did you come here? You had a choice, you know. You could have gone through the door on the right. You could have done whatever the hell you wanted over there. Why did you come this way? Speak. Say something to me. Explain yourself, you coward. You... When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Stanley? Hello? Are you... Is everything okay? Stanley, please. I need you to make a choice. I need you to walk through the door. Are you listening to me? Can you hear me? Is everything all right? Stanley, this is important. The story needs you. It needs you to make a decision. It cannot exist without you. Do you understand me? Whatever choice you make is just fine. They're both correct. You cannot be wrong here. We can work together. I'll accept whatever you do. I simply need you to take that step forward, please. Choose. Do something. Anything. This is more important than you can ever know. I need this. The story needs it.
¿Se acabó ya o...?
You hear me?
Ya volví.
Are you there?
Hola.
Are you listening to this? Stanley, are you there? Okay.
¿Qué pasó?
It's okay, I can wait.
Pues lo que pasó que me dijo... Y ahora Stanley tiene que ir a la puerta de la izquierda. Y lo que hice fue ir a la derecha. Después de ir a la derecha, fui hacia un sitio. Y luego salió todo mal, no sé qué. Y bueno, ahora estoy aquí.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Y si no hago nada, ¿qué pasa? Como acaba de pasar. Si no hago nada, ¿qué pasa? Si estoy un rato así, ¿qué pasa? ¿Me dice algo el narrador? ¿O no me dice nada? Si estoy así, yo que sé, un minuto. ¿Me dice algo? Si no toco nada.
Puede ser.
Voy a estar así. Un poquito.
No sé.
Yo que sé, unos segundos. Si me dice algo, o yo que sé.
Stanley just stood there doing nothing at all. He seems to think I have nothing better to do with my time than to sit around and describe every fascinating little detail of his inability to do anything. This is why Stanley and I are on such good terms.
XD.
Dice algo más. Si me quedo más tiempo quieto. Quiero ver eso. ¿Tú te imaginas que estar un rato así quieto, ganas un trofeo o algo así? Así, 20, 30 minutos. Obviamente eso no lo voy a hacer, lo haré fuera de cámara, pero Estaría guapo,
Estar de pie simulator.
Estar de pie simulator. XD. Estar de pie simulator, no hacer nada simulator. Estar de pie simulator. Va, me dicen una cosa más y ya está, ¿eh? Y ando. Y si no me dice nada, pues ando igualmente. Ahora voy a ir a por la puerta de la izquierda y voy a hacer todo lo que me dice.
Respirar simulator.
Respirar, respirar simulator. Ver la pantalla simulator. Dormir simulator.
Oae oae oae.
Espera un momento.
¿Hostia han abierto la caja de Pandora?
No, todavía no. A ver, bueno, no me va a decir nada más, yo creo, así que voy a ir hacia aquí.
Bofio creo que ya no dice nada,
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Hoping him coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Bueno, vamos a esto de... Vale. No puedo abrirlo. Oh. ¿Qué dice aquí? Por favor, ¿puedes
Te
traducir
tendrías
esto,
que
Nico?
haber quedado quieto en las escaleras XD.
Te tendrías que haber quedado quieto en las escaleras XD. Pero ¿y aquí qué dice?
Espera, lo pongo con el traductor.
Because the boss is not that way. The boss say was in the boss suffer losing, no sé qué. Yo qué sé qué pone ahí. Hazle captura a esto y tradúcemelo, por favor. Si es posible. Es que chicos, no sé ni lo que pone. Y aquí el único que está presente en el directo ahora de momento es Eneco, el Yumiko. Bueno, supongo que ya la habrás copiado, ya he dado tiempo, la verdad, de darle, no sé.
Porque el jefe sabe que lo que dice el jefe es lo que dice. Si el jefe ha sufrido pérdidas, entonces eso es lo que el jefe elige.
Ah. Y si voy por
Tal
aquí,
cual
¿qué
del
pasa?
traductor.
Y si voy arriba, arriba. Por el ascensor. La música. Hostia, hay una nota. No puedo coger la nota.
Superliminal, cara con la boca abierta.
Superliminal. Es lo más parecido a Superliminal, chicos. Esto es lo más parecido. Pero lo que pasa es que está el señor Stanley este, pero bueno. ¿No puedo recoger las notas? Oye, ¿esto qué es? ¿Infinito o qué? ¿Qué pasa? El ascensor más lento que he visto en la historia, por favor. Oye, ¿verdad?
Yo creo que se están vengando por lo de antes XD.
Oye, yo he subido una mierda.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
8, 4, 4, 5.
Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
¡Hostia! Bueno, vamos.
XD.
No veo una puta mierda. Me voy a matar. Yo para arriba. ¿Por qué tengo que ir para abajo? A ver, que alguien me lo explique. ¿Por qué tengo que ir para
Descending
abajo?
deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
Vengamos. Corre. Venga,
Stanley
corre.
walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
In finish in no cat exit 914 y med... Vale, no entiendo una mierda. Perfecto. Escape.
Diablo.
Diablo. ¿Por qué escape? ¿Eh? ¿Por qué escape? Para allá. Pues no. 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 ¡Hostia! ¡Hombre! Las cámaras del Club Penguin, tú. ¡Hostia! Desde el Superliminal que no las veo, ¿eh? Las cámaras del esto,
No
del...
XD.
Pues del esto, del Club Penguin.
The lights
Cara llorando de risa, cara llorando de risa, cara llorando de risa.
What horrible
Cara
secret did this
llorando.
place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
Vale, por aquí. Hostia, ahora que me va a aparecer el Monty Golf ahí. ¡Yuran! ¿Y me va a perseguir o qué? Con esta mierda metálica. Esto es para activar la cámara y... ¿No hay nada más?
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true
¿Qué
nature
cojo?
revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Ahí empieza. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 400, no sé cuánto. Son 600, del 1 al 600. Va. Nah, nos lo hacemos en este directo, chicos. ¿Te imaginas?
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was
Venga,
happy
ahora
with his
un
boring
boss
job?
fight.
That his
Aquí, un boss
emotions
fight.
had been
Boss fight.
manipulated to accept it
Boss fight.
blindly?
Vaya, joder. Si era un ring. Tío, esto era un ring.
No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
La sirena esa. Bueno, la sirena, la lucecilla está roja. Oye, no veo nada. Ah, vale.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
5. ¿Y eso? Espérate. Quiero ver todo. Oye, ¿no hay una linterna o algo? Es que... Joder. Con su de dis... No sé qué. Y si voy aquí abajo, ¿qué pasa? Ah, que tiene luces. Va. Pues le voy a pulsar. Hay botones. ¿Cuál era el código que me había dicho el tío este antes? ¿Cuál era el código? 2. Sé que era 2. ¿2 qué? 2, 4... No. ¿Cuál era el código? Dos, 1...
2845 puede ser.
2845, vale. 2000... Vale, el 8, el 4, 2845, has dicho. Ah, vale, y ahí más arriba. Oye, no veo una puta mierda. Hay una escalera ahí y no puedo saltar. Qué guapo. Pues ¿sabes qué? Me voy a los backrooms, la verdad. Me voy ahí. La verdad. ¿La puerta cerrada? No, abierta.
And when at last he found the source of the... Oh, Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you? After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself? Is that what you wanted? Control? Oh, Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go. Turn the controls off and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are said to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Let's say 2 minutes. Ah, now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires. Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But what precious moments each one of them is. More time to talk about you.
Claro, ¿y dónde tengo? Vale, creo que ya sé qué hacer. Creo que ya sé qué hacer, Voy a ir a lo fácil.
You'd like to know where your co-workers are? A moment of solace before you're obliterated? All right, I'm in a good mood. You're gonna die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened to them. I erased them. I turned off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone. Other times, I let the office sink into the ground, swallowing everyone inside, or I let it burn to a crisp. I have to say this, though. This version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away from you, it's quite rich. I almost hate to see it go. But I'm sure whatever I come up with on the next go-around will be even better. My goodness, only 34 seconds left. But I'm enjoying this so much. You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the clock. Why not?
Bueno, pues adiós.
These are precious additional seconds, Stanley. Time doesn't grow on trees.
Muchas gracias.
Oh, dear me, what's the matter, Stanley? Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right now? Or did you just assume when you saw that timer that something in this room was capable of turning it off? I mean, look at you.
Bueno,
running from
chicos,
button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room. These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones. Or maybe this big red button. Or this door. Everything, anything, something here will save me. Why would you think that, Stanley? That this video game can be beaten? Won? Solved? Do you have any idea what your purpose in this place is?
Ah, joder, dos.
Stanley, you're in for quite a disappointment. But here's a spoiler for you. That timer isn't a catalyst to keep the action moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death. You're only still playing instead of watching a cutscene because I want to watch you for every moment that you're powerless. To see you made humble. This is not a challenge. It's a tragedy. You wanted to control this world, that's fine. But I'm going to destroy it first, so you can't. Take a look at the clock, Stanley. That's 30 seconds you have left to struggle. 30 seconds until a big boom and then nothing. No ending here. Just you being blown to pieces. Will you cling desperately to your frail life? Or will you let it go peacefully? Another choice. Make it count. Or don't. It's all the same to me. All part of the joke. And believe me, I will be laughing at every second of your inevitable life from the moment we fade in until the moment I say, happily ever up.
Pum. ¡Ole! ¡Hemos muerto, gente! ¡Se murió!
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Pues nada.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Coge de la izquierda,
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Voy a ir por aquí, se cierra esto, lo cierro yo, aquí oí una nota. Money is morning, money is money is sí. Que el money es todo para el señor este. Entendible. Vale, y esto está igual. Bueno, pues vamos por aquí, ¿no?
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. What could it mean? Stanley wondered aloud to nobody. He began wildly tearing through papers on the boss's desk, pulling books off the shelf, looking behind paintings, desperate for clues to his situation. But his attention was caught by a keypad behind the boss's desk. What could its purpose be? In fact, this keypad guarded the terrible secret that lay buried below his feet. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Otra vez estamos aquí. Joder, qué pena que no esté Freddy de Five Nights at Freddy's, o Freddy, o Bonnie, o chica, o lo que sea, y me coma y ya está, y se acabó el juego. ¿No te imaginas así, tan rápido? Así, venga, de una. Vale, vamos por aquí.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Antes he ido por aquí y he muerto. Voy por aquí otra vez. A ver, vamos a ver.
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
¿Qué pasa aquí?
The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
Bueno. Oh, vaya. ¿Y ya está? ¿Y muere? Ah, no.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. And so he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
Bueno, adiós, Stanley.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
Y murió en el acto. ¿Ve? ¿Qué cojones? Vale. Y esta caja no la puedo... Que pone 900... O sea, 9514. De Stanley
And
para
yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish? When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
No puede, vaya. Y esto es mini. La versión mini del inicio, ¿verdad? Si es la versión mini del inicio. Computadoras de la oficina apagadas, a tomar por culo. Sonidos de botones.
Lo tienes en español. Léelo.
Ya.
Otia.
La oficina 1, la oficina 2, la oficina 3. Pues ¿sabes qué? Que no voy. ¿Esto qué es? Aquí es por donde yo he pasado, ¿no? ¡Oh! ¡Yo quiero la bici! Vaya. Hostia, ¿y esta sala? ¡Qué guapo! Yo quiero ir ahí. Zona de guerra. Es la primera etapa de la desarrollo. Sí. La tengo. A ver, es la desarrollo, diseño. Final. Stanley termina en un campo de batalla luchando contra alienígenas. El juego de acción cobraba conciencia de la... Le declara la guerra al narrador poco después de empezar a construir los rendimientos en cuenta literalmente el entorno del juego. Además, algunas personas interpretan que nos hablamos de los amantes de los juegos de intención. Va. Otras partes del juego, supongo. Más partes del juego. Ahí es donde empiezo. Ahí es donde empiezo. Ahí es donde empiezo. ¿Qué es esto? Oficina de Stanley. La izquierda a... De izquierda a derecha, la evolución de la oficina de Stanley. La primera se creó en noviembre de 2011. La segunda en marzo de 2012 y la tercera en febrero de 2013. O sea, esta es la oficina de 2011, ¿vale? Esta es la oficina de 2012. Mucho, no cambia mucho. Hay una mesa más grande y más cosas por aquí. Y esta es la de 2013. Un PC menos. Un PC menos. Y ya está. O sea, de 2012 a 2013 no hay mucho cambio que digamos, ¿eh?
Es un museo sobre Stanley.
Literalmente. Un museo de Stanley.
XD.
Prototipo del diseño del juego. Va. Hostia, las cadenas de Kratos, vale. ¿Qué pone? Ascensor de la sala de monitores. Ah, vale. ¿Qué? ¿What? Quiero darle al botón. Verde. No le puedo dar. Tío. Azul. 12 azul. No entiendo. Oficina del jefe. Imágenes del desarrollo de la oficina del jefe. Una puta mierda. Está bien. Pero qué puta mierda es esto. O sea, una puta mierda. Está bien. Una puta mierda. La sala de empleados. Zona subterránea. Ahí estaba hace un momento, la verdad.
Perfect example of poor level design. Textbook mistake. It's the kind of thing you'd pick up on intuitively if you had even the most fundamental understanding of good and bad games.
Vamos a traer
Of course,
igualmente.
you being you, you'll probably spend the next hour trying to solve it.
Tomas
Here,
de narración
I'm just going to make this easy on
descartadas.
you. Nothing there? Shoot.
La
Well,
voz del
try the other one then.
narrador grabado de diálogo de todo el
And
juego
finally, he pushed
en
the
3
number 9.
momentos diferentes a lo largo de
let's
los
see.
2 años
Stanley walked through
de
the green
desarrollo. Aquí hay tomas iniciales que no
Where
se
were all of his
utilizaron
crew
en
members?
el juego final.
Oh, I don't know. How about they're throwing a surprise party for him for all his button pushing? Does that sound plausible to you? Stanley
Vale.
stood on the snow. Still nothing. I don't know.
Y la voz me recuerda mucho a la de Superliminal, ¿eh? Reloj de la oficina. Está bien. La verdad. Y aquí sí que se hacía. Los botones. Estos son créditos ya. La oficina. Bueno, yo para dónde coño tenía que ir. Está en inglés. Correos electrónicos al narrador. Vale. Y esto es lo que he visto hasta ahora. Yo quiero ir. Ahora sí que quiero ir para allá. Para donde me ponía. Ve para allá. No sé qué. Oficina 1. Oficina 1, 2, 3. No puedo ni entrar a ninguna oficina. Vale, no. Y voy por aquí.
Stanley pushed the orange lever.
La sala de empleados. ¿Y qué hago aquí ahora?
What the fuck.
Yo también pienso lo mismo en eco. Ah, coño, por aquí.
Oh, look at these two.
Por algún lado habrá
How
que
they
ir.
wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free. Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen.
Se mamó.
Se mamut.
You can still
Se
save
pillín,
these
se
two.
marmat.
You can stop the program before they both fail. Turn off your PlayStation. There's no other way to beat this game.
Apaga la
As long as you move
PlayStation.
forward, you'll be walking someone
¿Sabes?
else's
Apaga
path.
la
Stop
PlayStation.
now and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Don't let...
Y se mamó realmente. Realmente se mamó. Se mamut. Se pillín. Se marmat. Y otra vez aquí. Qué
How long
guapo.
was I sitting there? Stanley wondered to himself. Minutes? Days? Centuries? Did something crucial happen while my senses were turned? He made a note to be more careful with time from now on. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Voy a ir por la
This
derecha
was
ahora.
not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly
Otra vez.
well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee
A
lounge
ver qué
first,
pasa.
just to
Si pasa
admire it.
algo.
¿Te
¿o qué?
imaginas que hay un logro que es apagar el play?
This room. What a beautiful room. What a gorgeous,
¿Tú te
gorgeous room. But
imaginas?
eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Voy para allá.
And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
Perfecto.
But Stanley didn't want to go back to the office. He wanted to wander about and get even further off track. So now in order to get back, he needed to go, from here it's, left.
Vale, no puedo ir.
Oh,
Wow.
no, it's to the right, my mistake.
¡No me vaciléis!
No, not the right. Why would I have ever said it was to the right? What was I thinking? It's clearly... Oh dear, would you hold on for a minute, please? Now, let's see. We went down right, left, down, left, right. Yep, okay, yes. I've got it now. This story is absolutely, definitely this way.
Izquierda, derecha, abajo.
Se mamó.
Y ahora
Otra vez.
me abres esto. Y por aquí no será. Y me abrirá esto. Verás. Vale, sí es. Gracias, pero yo ya paso. Por hacerme pasar tanto tiempo. ¿Cómo? No puedo. No me deja. Ahora. Vale, pues perfecto. Uy, por aquí abajo.
No. This isn't right at all. You're not supposed to be here yet. This is all a spoiler. Quick, Stanley, close your eyes. Okay. We just have to get back to, oh, who am I kidding? It's all rubbish now. The whole story completely unusable. How about, rather than waste my time trying to salvage this nonsense, we'll just restart the game from the beginning. And this time, suppose we don't wander so far off track, Okay, from the top.
Ah, y vamos a... Va.
XD, ha dicho que esto es spoiler.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
A ver, vamos a ver... ¿Qué es esto? Es que no puedo abrir ninguna puerta. Todas están cerradas. Vamos a ver... ¿Algo más? No. ¿Qué va? ¿No se puede abrir? No, no se puede abrir ninguna.
When Stanley... Wait, what? No, I restarted. I swear, I definitely restarted the game over, completely fresh. Everything should be... Oh, did something change? Stanley, did you change anything when we were back in that room with all the monitors?
Sí, ahora Stanley ha cambiado todo.
Or
Ha cambiado todo Stanley.
Why am I asking you? I'm the one who wrote the story. It was right here just a minute ago. I know for sure that it's here somewhere. Okay, then. It's an adventure. Come, Stanley. Let's find the story.
Busquemos la historia. A ver. ¿Puedo pasar por aquí? No. Gracias por no dejarme pasar por ahí. Vale, pues tenemos puerta número 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. ¿Vale? Tenemos 5 puertas. ¿Por cuál voy? Por la 1, 2, 3, 4.
This is the worst adventure I've ever been on. I can promise you there definitely was a story here before. Do we need to restart the game again? Well, I find it unlikely that we'll ever progress by starting over and over again, but it's got to be better than this. Okay, let's give it a shot. Why not?
¡Ebe! ¡Oye! ¿Qué? Pero... vete a la mierda.
His co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Okay, yep.
Vale, y ahora no importa. Muy bien, listo. Muy bien.
Vaya ya tarde.
Muy bien. Puto listo mierda. Hijo puta. Muy bien. Ahora ya no hay puerta. Tú eres tonto. Me cago en la puta. Ahora ya no hay puerta. Y ahora tienes que volver. ¿O qué hago si no? Ya no hay puerta. Eres tonto. Yo quería investigar en cualquier puerta y vas tú y me la quitas. No eres tonto.
Aha! I knew we'd miss something. The story. Here it comes. No, wait, never mind. Not the story. Okay, let's head back the other way and retrace our steps.
Pero qué cojones. Va.
Now this... Well, I'll be honest, I don't recognize this place at all. Is this the story? I don't think so. I can't quite recall, but I believe my story took place in an office building. Is that correct?
¿Qué?
Do you remember, Stanley? Well, do you know what? Since I've completely forgotten what we were supposed to be doing, how about this? You win! Congratulations! I know you put in a lot of hard work, and it really paid off, so good job. Oh, no. No, I don't feel right about this at all. We both know you didn't put in any actual work for that win. Some people win fair and square, and this was not one of those situations. Okay, I'm getting weirded out by whatever this place is. I don't care what might happen this time. I have to...
Bien.
Bien.
Has ganado.
Sí, he
XD.
ganado.
All right, I've got a solution. This
Bien.
time, to make sure we don't get lost, I've employed the
Stanley,
help
párame
of
la
the Stanley
Aventure
Parable
Line.
Adventure Line. Just follow the line. How simple is that?
No hay nada. Va. Sigo la línea, sigo la línea. Vale.
You see? The line knows where the story is. It's over in this direction.
¿Por qué?
Onward, Stanley, to destiny. Though, here's a thought. Wouldn't wherever we end up be our destination, even if there's no story there? Or to put it another way, is the story of no destination...
Es que es tan tontito que tiene que seguir una línea como en el médico XD.
Are we implying a journey such that a destination is inevitably conjured into being via the very manifestation of the nature of life itself? Whoa. Hang on. That got a bit weird back there. Well, I'd like to apologize. Not sure where I was going with all that. You know what?
Pero...
I think what we need right now is a bit of music to lighten the mood.
¡Ve! Y me pone música, ¿no? Vale, y me pone música. Perfecto. ¿Pero qué cojones? ¿Qué es esto? ¿Qué coño es esto?
No estás siguiendo la línea correctamente, vas a perder.
Cuidado. Yo no estoy siguiendo la línea correctamente. Ojo que no sé. Vale, sigo la línea correctamente. Ayuda.
Wait, cut the music, go back and look at that fern.
¿Qué? ¿Que vuelva? ¿Cómo que
Stanley,
vuelva?
this fern will be very important later in the story. Make sure you study it closely and remember it carefully. You won't want to miss anything. Wait, what? We're back at the office? No, No. Line, you do know we're looking for the Stanley Parable, right? The story? Is any of this ringing a bell?
¡Bo! Vale. Y me voy otra vez para la línea. Y me voy otra vez.
Oh, no, not again. Line, how could you have done this to us? And after we trusted you, after everything we've been through, you... Oh, I can't take this anymore. To hell with it. Restart.
Restart. ¿Es en
You know
serio?
what, Stanley? I say forget the adventure line. What's it ever done for us? We're intelligent people, right? Why can't we make up our own story? Something exciting.
Spoiler.
Mysterious. Ooh, this all sounds perfectly
Spoiler.
doable. Why don't we simply start wandering in, well, I don't know. How about this direction?
Ahora es por ahí.
Now, yes, this is exciting. Just me and Stanley forging a new path, a new story. Well, it could be anything. What do you want our story to
Estoy
be?
dando vueltas,
Go
gilipollas.
wild. Use your imagination. Whatever it might be, Stanley,
Ahora.
I'm ready for it. Oh, no, not you again. Stanley, I'd also like to veto the line from having any role in our awesome new story. No lines or monitor rooms. Just don't acknowledge it, and we should be fine.
Bo la línea.
Ah, a choice. We get to make a decision. From here, the story is in our control. How important we mustn't squander the opportunity. In fact, I believe I need a minute to think here. Just walk in circles for a minute. Okay, so I know that each door has to lead somewhere, which means that somewhere, the place where we're trying to go, there must be a reverse door that leads here. And that in turn means that our destination corresponds with the counter-inverted reverse door's origin. So starting from the right, let us ask, will taking the right door lead us to where we're going? And since the answer is clearly yes, then by all accounts, the door on the right is the correct one. Another victory for logic. Come, Stanley, our destiny awaits.
No. Vaya.
Oh, hold up, what's this? The confusion ending.
What the
What
fuck?
this is? It's all one giant ending? And we're supposed to restart the game, what, eight times? That's really how all this goes? It's
Ocho
all
reinicios.
determined? So now, according
Has
to the schedule, I
jugado
restart
al
again. Then what?
Final
Am I
de
just
la
supposed to forget?
confusión
Well, what if I
durante...
don't want to forget? My mind goes blank simply because it's written
¿Qué
here on
dices?
this thing, wall. Well,
Que
Son
lleva
todas tus
contando
decisiones.
why don't I get to decide?
todas mis
Why don't
decisiones.
I get a say in all of this? Is
El
it really-
final de la confusión.
No, it can't be. I don't want it to be. I don't want the game to keep restarting. I don't want to forget what's going on. I don't want to
Están
be trapped
escritas
like this.
todas tus
I won't
decisiones.
restart the game. I won't do it. I won't do it. I won't do it.
Despistaste de la sala
And the timer
no
stopped.
sé qué.
Does that mean, did we do it? Did we break the cycle? The, whatever it is that made this schedule?
Primer
How would we
reinicio.
even know?
Descubriste la
Will
habitación
someone
de
come
los
for us?
dos de las
Will
dos
something
puertas.
happen?
Ahora tiene muchas puertas
So-
adicionales.
Tú no has tomado ninguna decisión, todo estaba ya escrito.
I guess now we just wait.
Ah,
You know,
va.
I suppose in some way that this is a kind of story, wouldn't you agree? I'm not quite sure if we're in the destination or the journey, though they're always saying that life is about the journey
What a fight.
destination. So I hope that's where we are right now. We'll find out, won't we? Eventually. Well, in the meantime, if you...
¿Qué? Y se quita. ¡Ay, ve!
All
Va-
of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
¿Cómo?
Stanley decided to go to
XD.
the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Literalmente se ha reiniciado totalmente el nivel otra vez.
New content? What does that mean, new content?
Nuevo contenido. ¿Qué nuevo contenido? Pero...
El DLC.
El DLC.
Hello, and thank you for playing the Stanley Parable.
Eso es el DLC.
As you may know, the Stanley Parable was a video game released in 2013 on home computers. After receiving critical and commercial success, it was expanded upon in 2022 with the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, a reimagining of the game for consoles and home computers. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe features exciting new content that broadens and expands the world of the Stanley Parable, delighting audiences the world over.
De la edición deluxe.
Please, step inside and see what thrilling new adventures await in the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
Oh, well, this sounds delightful. I'm very excited to see the thrilling new Ultra Deluxe content. Okay, so far it's an elevator. Nothing special yet, but I'm sure it's just the beginning of a mesmerizing adventure.
Va.
Is it broken? What's going on here? Should we be moving somewhere or... Oh, there we go. All right, finally, at long last, it's on to the new content. I've never been more ready. Let's do it.
Vale, pues vamos a jugar el DLC, a ver.
I have to say, initial impressions of Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, mostly tedious. It's as if them... Oh, okay. Let's see the content. Give me the content, Stanley. All right.
¿Te imaginas?
All right, let's
Así,
see
ya
it.
está.
The jump circle.
Por fin. Saltos restantes. Oprime X para saltar. Vale. Ya no tengo saltos. Qué bien.
Is that it?
Se puede saltar.
Surely that's not all.
Cara con la boca abierta, cara con la boca abierta.
Goodness. Another elevator. Stanley, I have to say, initial impressions
no
of
se
this game
podía.
are not positive. It's just elevators and jumping. Is this what passes for exciting new content? If this is new content, then I could just read you the whole dictionary.
Bruh.
There's 20 hours of new content right there. Hell, I could count to 30 trillion. You could put that on the box. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, now with over 1,000 hours of new content. And if... Oh, wait. There's more.
Ya no XD.
Yes. I knew there had to be something else. Let's see it. I'm ready for whatever it is.
Thank you
That's it?
for
Oh, you've got to be
enjoying
kidding me. You see, Stanley? This is what happens when greedy video game developers with no respect for their fan base rush a cheap
Gracias por
expansion
jugar
to
el nuevo
market for
contenido.
no reason
Bueno,
other
chavales,
than to make
espero
an
que os haya
easy
gustado
dollar.
este
And don't get me
directo.
started on the
Darle
level
like,
of craftsmanship
¿te
that's gone into it. In fact,
Venga,
I'm
ya,
looking
ya,
right now at
acabo.
the game's trophies, and it's hard to believe one of them actually says, "Test trophy, please ignore." What quality assurance department signed off on this? I'm infuriated and I'm offended, and I intend to find these people on Twitter and hold them personally accountable. It's my fault, Stanley. I built up too much anticipation around the new content, I'm afraid. It could never have lived up to such expectations. If you're still with me, why don't we just reset the game, and we'll try to get back to what the Stanley Parable is really about. No frills, no gimmicks. Just you and me having a great time together like always. What do you say, friend?
B. Ah, vale, ahora...
Psst. Stanley, come over here. In the vent. I want to show you something.
No quiero. Espérate. he viajado al 2048, ¿no? Ahora de repente. O sea, estoy en otro sitio. Bueno, empecemos el juego.
You don't want to see the cool surprise I made for you? Well, fine. Oh, never mind. You're not a dog.
Me vuelvo. Va. Ah, es lo mismo, vale. Entonces sí lo voy a ir a ver, coño. Va.
XD.
Okay, you remember how cheap and unsatisfying the new Ultra Deluxe content turned out to be? Well, it got me thinking about the past, and how much better the Stanley Parable used to be. So I made something special and tucked it away here where the game's developers won't find it. Just our little secret. Take a look. I call it the Memory Zone. It's where I've been storing all my favorite memories so I can relive the peak experiences of my life whenever I want. Experiences like the launch of the Stanley Parable on PC.
Vale.
What?
You see, Stanley, doesn't the Memory Zone remind
Ah,
me
2023.
what Stanley Parable
Ah,
was before it was
2023,
sullied with a cheap
Stanley
PlayStation
Parable
port?
fue-
Remember back in October of 2013, when the game originally launched? Back then, video games had integrity. Back then, it all
2013.
meant something. Oh, the waste.
2013. Bruh. Vale. Stanley Paramel otra vez. De Stanley Demonstration. Ve la parte del juego ese. Bueno, la parte del juego ese, he dicho. Estoy en Stanley Paramel, ¿sabes? Beta. ¿Cómo que beta? Bueno, no puedo saltar. Las letras en pequeño que no las veo. Vale.
And over here is where I keep reviews of the Stanley Parable. Like this stunning triumph of games journalism, 10 out of 10 from Destructoid.com. James Stephanie Sterling writes, and I quote, "Where so many games that aspire to be more than games end up less than any form of art, Stanley Parable strives and then succeeds to be every game ever created." Did you hear that, Stanley? Every game ever created. That's how grand and all-encompassing the original Stanley Parable was. It was literally every game ever created. It was Skyrim, it was Persona 3, it was all of them, and now it's nothing. It's no games at all. It isn't even the Stanley Parable anymore. It's just a
Skyrim
husk
y
now,
Persona
a
3.
lifeless husk with an hour of new elevator content.
¿Esto qué es? Original. Vale. Person of the Year. Persona del año. Vale.
Here's another moving passage, this time from GameSpot.com. The Stanley Parable is both a richly stimulating commentary on the nature of choice in games and one that offers some of the most enjoyable, surprising, and rewarding choices I've ever been confronted with in a game. 9 out of 10. Don't you get it, Stanley? The game was perfect. It didn't need anything else. It didn't need new content. All they had to do was transport it in pristine condition along to the PlayStation. Boom, done. And they couldn't even do that. Couldn't resist the urge to go meddling with a beloved franchise.
Quiero ir para allá. No tengo salto. Ya no tengo salto. Decir room. Tendré que volver.
These were simpler times, Stanley. But I wouldn't give to go back, to have it all over again. Wait, hang on. I don't recall this part of the memory zone before. What's this? What's down here? Oh, no. Oh, God, no, Stanley. It's a collection of reviews from Pressurized Gas, the extremely popular online storefront for computer games. I haven't looked at these in years. I can't even imagine what's been collecting down here. Surely these reviews were glowing as well, weren't they? Honestly, I could not be bothered to play this game to full completion. The narrator is obnoxious and unfunny, with his humor and dialogue proving to be more irritating than entertaining. Unfunny! I'm not trying to be funny. I'm trying to make a serious work of art. I suppose I could write up a handful of gags to insert into the Stanley Parable, but the game is already such a densely layered web of profound philosophical insights that I can't even imagine where I'd have the room to stick them.
A ver. Pues por aquí, ¿no? Supongo. No. Otro cartel.
Okay, let's see what this one says. While the idea for the game is good, for someone who prefers non-linear games, this preachiness gets annoying fast. Preachy? Stanley? I'm not preachy, am I? You can tell me if I'm preachy. Honestly, you can. Oh, goodness. This is actually quite shocking for me. Well, to be honest, I had always thought of the game's dialogue as being rather terse to begin with. You can't know how much fluff I cut from the game to get it to feel as light and airy as it... Well, I always thought it did. But maybe it wasn't. Dear, what an awful memory to have to hold on to. These black marks on my otherwise unimpeachable track record. I feel like a failure, like I let these people down. Perhaps the Stanley Parable isn't quite as sterling as I always remembered. What's this one got to say? You constantly have to stop doing anything so the narrator can catch up with his long-winded explanations of what's happening. I wish there was a skip button. A skip button? Well, yes. Yes, I think we can do that. If I'm truly too preachy, then maybe letting you skip ahead for just a moment, surely it couldn't hurt. Not if it means we can strike these negative reviews from the record. Only positive reviews of the Stanley Parable. That's my motto today, and it's always been my motto. I'd do anything for the customer, Stanley. Yes, a skip button we shall have. And here it is. Go ahead and give it a shot. I'll pop... Oh, you're back, you see. You were only frozen in time for a few minutes, but it was plenty of time for me to deliver a long, rambling monologue full of unnecessary... Well, there, sport. You really did catch me rambling on a bit, didn't you? But that's the power of the button. The minute I start to go off on a thoughtless display of self-absorption... Okay, welcome back, Stanley. Now, I should say that the amount of time the button has been skipping through is becoming longer and longer. That last one was, well, I want to say maybe 30, 45 minutes? Stanley, please don't push the button again. It's been 12 hours. You've just been frozen there. I don't know why the skips are getting longer, but they're... Oh, Stanley, You're back. You're back. Oh, my goodness. I have someone to talk to again. Stanley, I think it's been a week. Or 2 weeks. I've been sitting here all that time. Just sitting. Oh, hello. It's you. You're here again. Welcome. I have had time to think about you and about us and about everything we've been through. I've had so much time, I stopped keeping track after a year. Have you ever sat down in one place and not moved for one entire year? Let me describe it for you. To begin...
Se ha muerto. No me lo puedo creer. ¿Qué suena? ¿Qué suena? El reloj. No me lo puedo creer.
But they didn't understand the game was never meant to be funny. It was meant to have a point. It was meant to speak to the human condition. But where are the jokes? Where are the jokes? They bemoaned, they screamed, they
¿Qué cojones?
The end is never the end, 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 is never the end.
Cállate. Por Dios. Hostia, no he clipeado esto. No sé cuánto llevo. ¿Cuánto llevo de directo? Va, ¿cuál es? ¡Hostia!
Se volvió loco.
Se volvió loco y tanto. ¿Puedo salir? No hay puerta. ¡Ve! Están pasando años. Están pasando años. Omitir. Están pasando muchos años. No sé ni en qué año estoy. Ya. Esto se ha convertido en un bucle backroom extraño, ¿eh? ¿Y puedo seguir dándole? No, ¿no? Vale. O sí. Vale, no. Se ha convertido en un puto desierto. En un... ¿Cómo es esto? En un... Ah, no me acuerdo del nombre. En un horizonte, ¿no? Se ha convertido esto de repente. Se ha convertido en un horizonte. Voy todo recto, a ver qué pasa si voy todo recto. O le sigo al sol. Voy todo recto, voy todo recto. ¿Qué pasa si voy todo recto? Loading. ¿Cómo sabía? ¿Cómo sabía que me iba a volver aquí? ¡Qué
All
locura!
of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
¡Qué locura! New content. Vamos a new
Oh,
content,
good.
venga.
You noticed my sign. Yes, I have something very exciting to show you.
The new content. Espérate. El nuevo contenido. El nuevo contenido, chicos. A ver.
You see, Stanley, I've been reflecting on the Stanley parable and about how
Madre
roundly
mía,
disappointing
tú.
this ultra-deluxe
¿Qué es
version
esto?
has turned out to be. The original Stanley
Qué
parable was a
locura.
landmark, and any new content for it should live up to that legacy. So forget this ultra-deluxe nonsense. I say we take it one step even further. Which is why I'm very proud to announce for the first time ever, the Stanley Parable 2.
Como que Stanley Paramel tú. ¿Cómo?
Yes, you see, isn't this far superior to a measly port with a few minor additions? Think of all the new territory we'll cover with a fully fledged sequel. An entirely new experience, built from the ground up.
Ha
Wide
pasado
similar
tanto tiempo
possibilities.
que han
It could
creado
go in
Stanley
so
Paramel
many
2,
different
chaval.
directions. This is what fans have truly been asking for.
In the end is never the end again. Stanley Paramel 2.
Al diablo, Stanley para el 2.
Stanley Paramel 2, tú. Hala, chaval. ¿Te imaginas? Stanley Paramel 2.
Calling it the Stanley Parable 2 is just so much catchier than Ultra Deluxe, don't you think? Ultra Deluxe? What does it even mean? But the Stanley Parable 2, now that's an artistic statement right there. It's future-oriented. It screams progress and innovation and long-term franchising
No,
potential.
ahora en serio. Stanley Paramel 2. ¿Tú te imaginas que, yo que sé, para este año saquen Stanley Paramel 2? Buah. Después de jugar este. Sería muy XD, ¿eh? Mira que el juego es supuestamente de 2013, ¿no? Este juego. The Color Red. Stanley Paramel 2. Stanley Paramel 2.
Now, to be clear, I haven't quite nailed down what exactly the Stanley
Whoa.
Parable 2 is going to be, but let's take a look at some of the features I've been developing for it. I figure that if I can loosely organize a handful of interesting concepts, that surely the game will sort of naturally spring up around them. It'll all work itself out. Game development is much more of a fuzzy magic than anything scientific or logical, really.
Vale, vamos por aquí. De Stanley Paramel 2.
Here we are. Go on. Try out some of the new features.
Here in the... Vi un Stanley gigante. The New First, no sé qué.
Escucha tu nombre en el juego. Ponía ahí.
¿Cómo que escucha mi nombre en el juego? Escucha mi nombre en el juego. ¿Cómo que escucha mi nombre en el juego? Un código QR. No lo voy a escanear,
En
pero
el
sí.
cartel de antes.
No lo voy a escanear, pero sí le voy a sacar una foto a esto. Perfecto. Stanley Paramel 2.
En lo que has leído.
Ah, esto, ¿no? Shade name, sí.
Eari uname incegame.
For the
Sí.
Stanley Parable 2, I
Entra.
asked myself, what do players really want? And of course, the first and most obvious answer is that they want to be individually recognized and validated as people. So with that in mind, my first addition to... Sorry, I should have clarified. Right now, the button only says the name Jim. But of course, in the final game, this button will say your name, whatever name that is. Here, let's have you role-play as Jim to really simulate the full experience of this feature. Just play along. I promise you'll love it. Okay, here we go. Let's take a deep breath, clear your mind, forget whoever you are, and simply become a person named Jim. I want you to imagine yourself... Jim. Whoa, hold on. I wasn't finished setting up the backstory. If you don't properly roleplay as Jim, then you'll never understand the impact of this button. Otherwise, it's just a stupid button that says somebody else's
No me
name.
jodas.
Okay, we're doing it again, and this time let me finish first. Now, allow yourself to become Jim. Imagine yourself driving to work as Jim, playing frisbee on the weekends as Jim, staying up all night for a popcorn and horror movie sleepover as Jim, developing a crypt. All right, fine, whatever. It's just a meaningless button that says Jim. Are you happy now? Get out of here. I'm done with this button. Why don't you go humiliate me in front of a different feature that I worked very hard on? Jim. See, if you'd only played along, that would have been your name the button says, but no. Instead, I can't even think about it. I'm
XD.
taking the Jim button away.
Jim. 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 Jim.
Jim.
XD.
A ver, pues voy a salir.
Maybe I'll only let people named
Yes,
Jim
no.
play the Stanley Parable 2. They would appreciate what I've created here.
No quiero entrar todavía por ahí. Quiero mirar esto y ahora entro por ahí. Wow. Stanley Parable 2. Coleccionables. El mapa, bueno. Infinite Hole. Exit.
Trofeos.
Bueno, ahí pone collections. Stanley Parable 2. Vamos a ver.
Stanley, here's an idea that I'm truly fond of. It's never been done before in a video game. This is, in fact, a hole that you can fall down forever. That's right. Infinite falling. You can fall until the end of time if you like. A stunning new
Adiós.
product for video games.
Adiós.
Isn't it wonderful? One of my more ingenious concoctions, if I do say so. Now then, since you've gotten to see the infinite hole, you can press the teleport button to pop back up to the top, and we can continue onward.
Oprime para
Now,
volver
I
a la
don't mean to be a bummer, but I do
superficie.
recommend you use the teleport button to go back to the
Esto va a
top.
ser infinito.
Maybe do it on the sooner rather than later spectrum of things. Okay,
Well,
Stanley,
yeah.
I don't know quite how to say this tactfully, but it's possible that I slightly exaggerated the infinite nature of the hole. Is it a very, very deep hole? To be certain it is. It's an extremely deep hole. I don't want anyone to say that it isn't an astonishingly deep hole. It is. Is it infinite? Well, that sort of depends on your definition of infinity. From one perspective, the infinite is merely philosophical in nature. It's more of a... Okay, well, good for you. You found the bottom of the hole. You found me out, Stanley. I'm a liar and a cheat, and you're so clever. Look, I think the issue here is just that you're unusually fascinated by falling. What normal person actually wants to fall infinitely? I figured the hole was as deep as anyone would actually need. Don't you put this on me. Maybe you're the problem. Look, things got a little heated there. I think we both said some things we didn't mean. Why don't we just put all this behind us and agree to just call the hole mostly infinite? If that works for you, then go ahead and press the teleport button to warp up to the top of the hole and we can move on. I'll just be up here when you're ready.
No quiero. No quiero. A ver. Va, para que no entienda nada. En fin. Vale, sí, aquí ya no pasa nada, ¿verdad? Aquí ya no pasa nada, ¿verdad? Vamos a ver. Pues nada.
Great. Now, I'm very excited to show you even more of my ideas for the sequel.
Ha quedado buen día,
Ha quedado buen día, Se ha quedado buena tarde.
XD.
Quiero ir arriba. Qué pena, no puto. Oye, infinito. Tremendo.
Vete a lo de los logros.
No screenshot.
Okay, I'll be honest, I haven't yet decided on this one. I think that in the new version, the office could use a bit of decoration, like balloons. But I'm undecided on Get Well Someday and Happy 12th Birthday. Which would you go with?
Well, someday...
You know, sometimes when you solicit another person's opinion, it makes you realize that you knew which one you actually really wanted all along. Get Well Someday it is.
No he entendido nada, así que bien.
Or actually, maybe I should have gone with...
Pues sí, XD.
No, I've made my decision. We're moving on.
Get in here. Colección de no sé qué aquí, ¿no?
Ah, collectibles. Now it's a real video game. In the Stanley Parable 2, you'll run...
Consigue un logro fácil.
Stanley figurines. And what's truly innovative is that there will be no reward for collecting all of them. I don't want to stifle the intrinsic joy of watching a number go up. You simply collect all of them, and then you move the hell on with your unremarkable life.
1 de 6. Va.
God, it really is the worst when you collect everything in a video game and then they give you a big fancy reward for it. Absolutely tragic.
Vale, aquí arriba que hay.
Oh, goodness, Stanley, this is fairly awkward. I hate to do this, but before you leave, you really should go to the bucket exhibit. You see, there's a surprise I was going to spring on you later, and it involves the bucket. And I really do hate to break the illusion, but it's important that you go see the bucket, okay? All right, I'll get out of your hair now.
Un cubo. Diablo.
Ay, ¿se me escucha bien? Por aquí no puedo ir.
Sí.
Vale, vale, perfecto.
Now, here's something special. You remember that broken test trophy that got left in the game on accident? Well, I'm developing a technology to simply give you the trophy. Yes. You see, you'll come to this lever. Okay, perhaps I should have clarified. This is technology that will exist. Right now, the trophy is still fully broken. I'm not a wizard, Stanley, but I guarantee it will be fixed in the sequel to at last satisfy the hordes of ravenous fans all over the world who have been uproariously demanding this feature. Gamers, we hear you, and I promise it will happen.
Pues nada. A volver porque no es una puta mierda. Vale.
What else? What other exhibits haven't we seen yet?
Yo no sigo. Ha sido Neko que está en el chat. ¿Qué coño es esto?
You know what? Let's bring the jump circle back for Stanley Parable 2 as well. It's... Oh, wait. You already spent all your jumps the first time we saw the jump circle.
Bo.
Oh, well. I suppose it can just be a nice decorative piece, then.
Aquí. Es verdad. Que iba a ir aquí.
An epilogue would be fun, wouldn't it, Stanley? Yes, yes, it would go at the end of the, well, we'll figure that out later.
A ver. Stanley Paramel.
Te queda el cubo.
Hash mundial de la configuración. El cubo, ¿qué cubo? ¿Qué cubo?
El cubo cara neutral.
¿Cómo que el cubo? El exit. ¿Qué cubo?
No? You're just going to ignore my advice? Fine. No fun new content for you, then. You're the one who spent money on this game. So, Stanley, what do you think? Do you like all of the new features? Yes, I know it's not exactly clear yet how exactly these features will come together as one single coherent video game, but I can feel it in my soul. It's going to work. There's definitely a good game.
Te faltó la sección del cubo.
Let's do an experiment.
XD.
I don't
I'll
know.
arrange these new features together, and we'll see whether or not it coheres into a meaningful gameplay experience. Okay. Are you ready? Here it is. I give you the Stanley Parable 2.
Sí.
Well, I mean, there's potential here, right? It's sort of... Okay, never mind. Hold on. Let me do a different arrangement. Okay, yes, this is much better. I feel good about this. Here we go. Version 2.
Vaya caca con ojos.
Who am I kidding, Stanley? This isn't a coherent video game at all. It's a lot of gags. And I do very much enjoy creating gags, but they don't add up to anything. I wanted more than anything to create a sequel that would capture all the magic of the first game. I wanted fans to love it. No matter how good these gags are, they won't stand on their own. They would need the structure and the gameplay of the original. Wait, maybe that's it. I can take the original Stanley Parable and simply, well, insert a few of my new features into it. Tastefully, of course. With respect. With care for the vision and integrity of the original game. Would it possibly work? I suppose it could. But it would need a really, really tremendous title screen. A title screen that says with bold and uncompromising conviction, "This is the Stanley Parable 2." Let me see if I can whip something up. All right, perfect. Go ahead. Take a look.
Vale, estamos en Stanley Paramelo. ¿Qué?
Oh.
¿Qué? ¿Cómo?
Cuidado.
¿Cómo? ¿Cómo que Stanley Paramel 2? Ya de repente. ¿Qué cojones? Dentro del Stanley Paramel está el Stanley Paramel 2, chavales. Ya lo sabéis.
Stanley Parable 2.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee.
¿Esto es lo del inicio? Vaya, esto es el Stanley Paramel 2, chavales.
Se puede omitir XDD.
What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Este es el Stanley. New content. Esto ya no lo veis.
When Stanley came to
Lo de las críticas de Steam funcionaron.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a
normal.
wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's. Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Oficina del jefe. ¡Wow! Ha cambiado mucho desde el primero. What?
You found one of them. One of the miniature Stanley figurines. Remember, no reward for collecting all of these, only the intrinsic pleasure of a job well done. You can't buy that sort of happiness, Stanley. God knows I've tried. So, I implore you to savor each and every moment you come across one of these beautiful figurines.
Pues nada. Vale, y ahora no va a abrir eso. Perfecto.
The moment he entered his manager's
voy
office, Stanley froze in his tracks. Not a living soul
Perfecto.
anywhere. Could he really be all alone? This was too much for Stanley to take. Too much for any man to take. He fell to his knees. bursting into half
Esto
moans,
es,
half
Stanley
sobs,
Paramel
the
2,
guttural
Espérate.
retching of life from a man denied any hope, any reason to keep going. Here on the floor, he lay prone, paralyzed by fear for nearly a full hour. But when at last he began to move about and survey the situation, he found a keypad behind the boss's desk. What could it mean? Was it a sign of hope for Stanley's future? Alas, it was not. For although
2458,
Stanley's past,
creo.
it had been assigned a 4-digit code so
No,
devious
era
and so random that no
2845.
man could ever hope
O
to
2845.
4-5. Statistically, nearly impossible to guess blindly, ever.
Eso.
45.
Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Bueno, estamos en las mismas ahora. Todo es igual. Todo es
Stanley
lo
walked
mismo.
straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Antes fui al escape y ahora voy a ir otra vez.
The lights rose on an enormous
Tendría
room
que haber
packed with
ido a
television
New
screens.
con-
What horrible secret
qué,
did this
¿no?
place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
que tendría
Now
que
the
haber
monitors
al
jumped to
no sé
life,
qué.
their true nature revealed.
Pero
Each
sí,
bore the
eso.
number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
A ver.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable, wasn't it?
Esto es lo
Was it
mismo
even
de
possible?
antes.
Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
Esto es lo mismo pero con trofeos o qué.
The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
En vez de on, le he dado a off. Venga.
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes. He had won. He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him. For it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door. Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen.
Ya está.
And Stanley was happy.
¿No? Y ya está. Termina el juego, trofeo. Vale, ya está.
El final bueno.
El final, bueno, el final bueno no, uno de los finales buenos.
Parece ser.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had
Uno de los
simply missed a
finales
memo.
buenos. New content. Bueno, voy a dejar el directo aquí. Espero que os haya gustado el directo. Dale a like, suscribiros, activar la campanita y hasta la próxima.